The 100cc karts are worth up to $3,500 and hurtle around the track at speeds close to 100 kilometres an hour. Go-karting is one of the fastest growing sports in the area, attracting competitors from 7 years old through to others in their mid-50s. Go-karts have long been regarded as proving grounds for future touring car and Formula One drivers. Action at the track was halted around lunchtime after one competitor had a nasty accident. The Westpac helicopter was called in to airlift the 35-year-old man to Royal Newcastle Hospital, where it was found he sustained a punctured lung and fractured ribs. His condition tonight is stable. Today's open sprint was used as a final preparation for the last round in the New South Wales City Series to be held at the Wallsend track next month. Turning from four-wheel racing to two, and riders from far afield as Ballina and Canberra battled it out in the Cameron Park Raceway today in the New South Wales Championships. The 125, 250, 500 and sidecar two-wheelers are powered by an alcohol fuel mix and complete 4 laps in less than 1 minute 40. More than $2,000 in prize money was on offer. Still on two wheels, but of a little slower variety, and at Raymond Terrace today, 20 riders completed the Spinning Wheel Hotel Endurance Ride. The riders left Raymond Terrace yesterday, stopping overnight in Gloucester before finishing at the hotel late this afternoon. Winner of the 350-kilometre event was Adam de Gilda. Turning to soccer, and at Birmingham Gardens, a disappointing day for the Australs against Canterbury when they were defeated 4-0. All goals were scored in the first half, with the first awarded to striker Nick Austin-Basides. Second and third goals were awarded to striker Tony Parison. Later, fullback Spiro Hatasis kicked a convincing goal off a penalty. This is Austral's first defeat in 7 matches, and while it's disappointed the followers, they're not out of the semi-finals yet, but it'll be an uphill battle from now on.
Number one tactic, because if they can get Derek out of the game, then they have 3 big men against really no big men for Newcastle. 73 to 67, the margin's 6 now.
Medical experts, athletes and sports executives are in Newcastle to learn more about drugs in sport and to plan ways to prevent drug misuse. Professor Arnold Beckett is a member of the Olympic Committee Medical Commission. He says that at stake is not just the Olympics, but the future of all sport.
We must face it that drug misuse is occurring at all levels of sport. It's occurring among school kids, people in fun runs and middle-aged people in mini marathons, etc. are misusing anabolic steroids. Not a question of pressure on them or to win, but just to feel that they're doing slightly better. We are in danger of becoming a drug culture totally in sport. And unless this is broken, I fear for the future.
World awareness of drugs in sport, especially anabolic steroids, was heightened by the disqualification of Canadian sprint star Ben Johnson at the Seoul Olympics. But Professor Beckett says that incident and others merely highlight a looming crisis. State Health Minister Peter Collins and Sport Minister Bob Rowland-Smith attended the opening as well. If guests hoped to hear a decisive announcement by the government, they were to be disappointed.
The government in New South Wales believes that it's the responsibility of the sports bodies to conduct such testing, and that this responsibility should not necessarily be assumed by government at any level.
Professor Beckett agrees government intervention is a last resort. He wants to see more legal controls of the movement of drugs, but drug misuse should be controlled by self-regulation within the sporting community.
I think it's terribly important that government plays its role, but allows sport to self-discipline, to discipline itself. That should be its role. If it fails, then government's got to step in and act.
The conference will close on Friday, after which lecture notes will be published to form what the Hunter Sports Academy hopes will be the guidelines for new codes controlling drug misuse.
Set in 1929, Once a Bold Collier depicts the struggles of a mining family in the strife-torn Hunter Valley coalfields. The play traces the personal pressures as industrial unrest builds to the infamous clash between miners and police at the Rothbury pit.
The mounted police just charged through, batons going right and left, old men battered to their knees. Then the guns came out. Men were shot through both legs, one through the throat. It was murder, Jimmy said. Cold-blooded murder.
The play was commissioned to mark the 60th anniversary this year of the Rothbury riots. It begins its 6-week Newcastle season tomorrow night. Come the second week of September, and the show will travel to Curry, Cessnock and Singleton, perhaps reviving memories for locals who lived through those troubled times.
How could they do that?
I don't know, Maggie.
The men will never forgive them, you know. Ever. Things will have to change now. They'll have to, won't they?
How would you like to own a print by one of Australia's most radical painters? Aussie Post released 4 41-cent stamps today to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of the 9x5 Impressionist painter's first exhibitions, held in Melbourne in 1889. Newcastle's post office brought in local artist Hal Paddle, who tried to recapture Impressionist art as seen by the breakaway painters during that era. As the name implies, they sketched on 9x5-inch cigar boxes and brought these back to their studios to paint the larger paintings. Impressionist artists concentrated on light, broke all the conventional rules and changed the art world.
They weren't accepted for a while by the establishment. The press of the day seized on that title and slammed it.
The rebels were Arthur Streeton, Tom Roberts, Charles Condor and Frederick McCubbin. While the stamp issue highlights the sketches, with the release of the 41-cent stamps comes a gentle reminder. It will cost you 2 cents more to post a letter from the beginning of next month. Willie Lafitte for NBN News.
Major Stan Hindle from the Salvation Army and Father Ron Picken, between them share nearly 50 years of community work. Newcastle's Chief Inspector Ian Cleary labelled the men as his 2 greatest Australians, men who work tirelessly for the force with little recognition. Major Hindle recalled the time he counselled a young girl threatening suicide.
The police had picked her up in Hunter Street one night and I got paged and brought her up here, talked to her and then counselled her, and I brought my wife into that one too, and she talked to her, and now she's back on the rails. She's a brilliant young girl and she races up and gives us a hug because of the interest we took into her. If it wasn't for the police's involvement with her in the first place, well, we wouldn't have had that opportunity.
Father Pickens works directly with police officers, counselling and offering guidance. 25 years at chaplain, he has assisted with the armed forces, prisons and for the last 4 years with Newcastle Police.
Somebody asked me how long I've been a priest. I said 25 years, and they said you don't even get that sentence for murder.
In Newcastle, the strikers forced Aero Pelican to cut back its Belmont to Sydney flights by 4 a day. A spokesman for Aero Pelican says the company has decided to drop some flights because many commuters cannot arrange connecting flights from Mascot to other capital cities. However, one lady who flew into Belmont today says there's an easy way around the strike.
Hire private planes, as some of them were doing off our plane.
Car rental companies across Newcastle report that demand for their one-way rentals has more than doubled since the strike began. And if the demand increases, there will be no cars left by tomorrow afternoon. However, residents of Western Australia and the Northern Territory are in a bind because many of the companies won't allow their cars to be driven to those states in a one-way rental. Other companies say although there is a huge demand for one-way vehicles, it hasn't produced windfall profits because businessmen who would normally hire a car for a few days while in Newcastle cannot find one. Meanwhile, local travel companies have been inundated with ticket refunds and requests for seats on overnight coaches. Some companies have scheduled extra services to cope with the demand. Darren Curtis for NBN News.
Working out 6 days a week, 2 hours each day, Jason and Anthony Wingett are busy pumping iron in preparation for the championships. They say their program is hard work and a good diet, drug-free. But the twins claim some of their competitors are using steroids to bulk up.
Of course, there's plenty of bodybuilders. There's plenty of bodybuilders, runners, cyclists, everybody.
The twins began bodybuilding 3 years ago to turn some unwanted flab into healthy muscle.
They had a bit of size about them, the bodies were just a bit blur, you know.
Now there is certainly nothing flabby about their 127 centimetre chests and 47 centimetre biceps. And Jason and Anthony say they can definitely win without drugs.
The main thing in bodybuilding and any sport, it's not the drugs or anything anyone takes, it's how much heart you got, how much determination go. Like, if you don't have a heart, and you don't eat right, you'll never make it in bodybuilding, no matter how many drugs you take.
The state title's coming up next month. Who's going to win?
Me.
Although it looks like wood, the 15-metre trunk is pure stone. Each section weighs more than a tonne. The Newcastle Businessmen's Club raised £10,000 to pay a mining museum in Sydney for this rare example of the trees that now form coal seams. The sections will be reassembled to stand in the museum foyer as a reminder of our coalfields links with prehistory.
With stable jockey John Marshall electing to ride stablemate Stylish Century, Jim Cassidy will be aboard Krakenback. Stylish Century has drawn the outside barrier, but his eye-catching second to patronise in Saturday's up-and-coming stakes points to the former Queenslander running on boldly tomorrow. And Gary Harley suggests that you throw in Solar Circle for the minor placing in the trifecta. And now for the Canterbury Daily Double, try Valiant End in the first leg and Lightning Bend in the second. Classy New Zealander My Steely Dan is a short-priced favourite to take out the Wait for Ace JJ Liston Stakes at Sandown tomorrow. His main opposition will come from the in-form Sea Brigand and Memphis Blues. For the Daily Double, try Vane Valeric in the first leg and My Cambida in the second. In Newcastle, they race at Beaumont Park and a top fill will contest the Stayers Cup. Gary Harley's been in pretty good form lately and he tips Emerald Blade to beat Black Ravella and Chariot's Gift in the Cup, which is your trifecta race, and Friendly Digger coupled with Life Goes On should provide the winners in the Daily Double. For the trotting enthusiast, it's Cessnock Saturday night and Kenzim along with Taros are Gary Harley's selections for the Daily Double, and in the trifecta, 3, 2 and 1, Kenzim to beat Cujo 2 and Denard. Hope we provide a winner for you.
The news that Tomaree Lodge is to be sold is nothing new. In recent months, the state government made no secret of the fact that the prime site was earmarked for sale. But what there hadn't been much discussion on was just what the future held for its residents. When Health Minister Collins announced Tomaree was included in the big sell-off, expected to net the government as much as $500 million, there were immediate fears the 74 people would be institutionalised, although most are capable of being integrated into the community. Today, Mr. Collins bit the bullet, revealing for the first time that plans were already afoot to prevent the residents being put away, possibly to the extent of building a new facility.
It's an exceptionally valuable site which I think will return, I would say on a very bad day, at least $10 million to the state. I would think that the figure could be very much higher, possibly double that figure or even more than that. There's no doubt that we can take funds from that to build a new purpose-built 1990s building for the patients rather than the 1940s buildings they've had to endure for the last 20 years or so. They will be cared for at Tomaree until such time as we're able to make alternative arrangements for them, and if we need to fast-track a new centre for them, we'll do that.
Mr Collins was also quick to retaliate to claims that the site was to fall victim to a big-scale development.
We're not going to allow any despoilation of the coastal frontage there, and what we're talking about is limiting any development to that area which currently has dilapidated health department buildings on it.
The news saw a thawing of the stance taken by some, among them Newcastle Trades Hall Council Secretary Peter Barrick, who had announced green bans would be placed on any developments planned on the site. This afternoon, Mr Barrick said the news did seem far more acceptable, and the council would not go ahead with the bans if local residents were happy. From Dr Owen James of the Hunter Area Health Board, there was hearty praise. He said Tomaree's presence had actually restricted the use of the headland and its beaches for the people of Port Stephens, and considered the combination of a tasteful development and a national park would be far more beneficial.
Neither teams will figure in this year's first grade finals, and now it's a question of finishing the season on a high note. Parramatta are on 22 points, 2 ahead of the new boys on the block, and Alan McMahon and his Chargers would love to cap off a marvellous year by joining the Eels on 22. The Knights will honour great Eels halfback Peter Sterling before the game, but when the serious stuff begins, they will have to curb the super talents of Brett Kenny, who still has the skill to turn any game. Michael Hagan, who only yesterday turned down an offer from English club Warrington to play in the off-season, will once again be the linchpin for the Knights. And players from another era take the field at half-time in the main game. Golden Oldies, who played in the memorable 1964 State Cup match between Parramatta and Newcastle, which was won by Newcastle, will trot onto the ISC and more than likely limp off to a standing ovation. Last night, a few of the Newcastle contingent, household names such as Panowitz, Edzer, Doyle, Heaney, Brown, Giles, Horn and Perry tried to unravel tired muscles, not with much success, and talked freely about their forthcoming battle with the Thornett brothers, Bob Bugden and others on Sunday.
Well, the headmasters got together about 10 years ago and formed an association, and it's for academic reasons as well as sporting ideas, and they come up with this Winter Sports Day where they get the kids involved with the various sports, and also they can socialise a little bit and get to meet kids from different areas.
What schools are represented here today?
Well, there are 12 schools, and I don't know whether I'll get them all out, but we have schools from Blue Mountains Grammar, Illawarra Grammar, Chevalier, which is down Barrow Way, Kinross Woollaroy, which is out at Orange, and there's about 5 schools from Sydney.
Approximately 2,000 pupils took part in 6 different sports. At Adamstown Oval, soccer skills were on display, and a couple of super goals in the Open and also the junior divisions had all players enthusiastic about their chances. Stevenson Park at Mayfield hosted the softball for the girls, and they got into their work under the guidance of teachers and local softball officials. Basketball was conducted at Broadmeadow, with a couple of teams showing lots of skill and determination. Rugby is referred to as the gentleman's game, but even in 7-a-side it was win at all costs, with this excellent try being scored from the kick-off. At National Park it was hockey and netball for the girls, and again, teamwork was a prerequisite for success, although a bit of individual skill didn't go astray, especially on the hockey field. But according to Dave Ankeny, the huge carnival couldn't have been conducted without the help of local sporting officials.
Newcastle people have been really great. In each sport that I've mentioned before, the associations have really supplied us with grounds, referees, and have been very, very helpful, and I'd like to thank them for all the cooperation they've given me.
Eric McGuinness has turned a few heads over the years as he's been helped onto greens. His bowling has turned many more. Since he started in 1969, Eric has won 6 international gold medals in wheelchair competition. And he hasn't shied away from open play either. He's won all of his South Wagga Club championships at one time or another. In short, Eric refuses to see his disability as a hindrance.
I'm accepted as one, and many a time I've been threatened to have me wheel kicked in because I beat somebody to the shot.
And the other bowlers soon learn to give nothing away to wheels.
He doesn't get any quarter.
Why is that?
Why should he? He's champion.
Eric claims bowling from a wheelchair is relatively easy and hopes his success will be an encouragement to others.
You might have people that's had a stroke, somebody with an amputation, going around with a wooden leg or so forth, or even people in wheelchairs. There's no reason why they can't get back out and play competition in various sports.
Eric is one of 128 players from across the state competing at Cahaiba this week. Unfortunately for organisers, the pilots' strike has meant many interstate players were unable to attend. The finals will be played on Thursday.
I'm very pleased because it gives me the privilege of being able to present the award. I have had some association by attending functions such as the Quota Club. Deserved and well earned, and congratulations.
I do regard it as a bit of a friend now. It's been at home quite a few times. Problems of deaf people is something that's become part of my family too.
Good boy. Over here, everyone. You need a lot of room when you go punching. Have you got your punching ball there too? Oh, good. We've got to go punching ball, haven't we? Let's ask Mr. Music if he's ready too. Ready.